everyone, it's me again, John Lorden, here with another edition of BrainScratch, and we're returning to my most researched topic this year, Elisa Lam and the Cecil Hotel. And right here I have a picture of the Cecil. There's a lot of publicity shots that you can find if you do a search on Cecil Hotel lobby, and they seem very bright and colorful like this, but I can tell you from personal experience now of going there, it doesn't really look like that, at least not at the time I was there in the middle of the day. So I know some of you are probably saying, "What, John, you went there, but you said on that radio interview that you wouldn't want to go down there." It's extremely true. I basically wanted to find a group of people or another couple of BrainScratch fans to meet up and to really check into the feasibility of doing kind of a shoot from down there, an official edition of BrainScratch, maybe even something bigger than just a usual edition of BrainScratch. And I wound up finding a few people. Unfortunately, one of them couldn't make it last minute, but the other one decided to meet me down there, and I'm going to keep their identities private in this. I'm just going to refer to them as, or this one in particular, as my co-investigator. Let me just say, I had a little bit of nerves just even driving there. All of a sudden I started thinking a lot about the case, and just these pictures of Elisa started popping in my head, the same pictures that we've all seen. But there was definitely a bit of an emotional twist that was happening to me that I wasn't quite expecting, outside of just being nervous about going to this part of downtown LA. And to be honest, I had never been in this specific section of downtown LA before. I've been in other parts of downtown LA, and there's a couple of, kind of tourist areas down there. The Disney Music Center, of course, is a very nice place to go, and you can have lunch there, and they've got all kinds of wonderful art that you can review while you're there. There's a pretty healthy financial district in downtown LA that is relatively clean. There's a lot of police force. It's a place where people meet up and go and do things all the time. However, when I rounded the corner at the Cecil and realized I was literally looking at it, I'd make this right turn and all of a sudden you're looking at the side of the building and it still says the Cecil Hotel on the sides. Basically, they've rebranded the front entrances only, and for some reason they haven't spent any money in terms of repainting this thing. It looks like it hasn't been repainted in decades, to be honest with you, at least on the side walls. It really hit me. Like, I just got this this weird kind of gut feeling that was heavy. I wound up parking in a parking lot that is literally right against the Cecil Hotel. So I parked there and started walking down the street a little bit. I wanted to meet up with my co-investigator before doing anything around the Cecil real seriously, but I just took a look at it from the front, and there appears to be sections of the front that they've kind of chopped up into other businesses. You can see, if you're looking at it straight on, at the furthermost left is the Stay on Main lobby, which was, if you do a search on Google Images, you can find this kind of hip lobby with this big orange desk and this weird little loft area where there's a couple of computers. That is actually to the left of the main entrance to what is now the Stay on Main, but the former Cecil Hotel. And some people have asked me about a comment that Elisa left where it sounds like she was saying that there was a hotel next to the hotel that she was staying at that had a really gaudy entrance. And that is actually the Cecil Hotel entrance. There is no other hotel on the side of that beyond. Some people have even tried to tell me that, well, this means that she wasn't staying at the Cecil, she was staying somewhere else. I've reviewed the legal documents. We know that she was a guest at the Cecil. They are suing the Cecil Hotel because of what happened to her, and if she wasn't staying there, that really wouldn't make much sense. And 620, which comes up a lot, the Cecil Hotel is at 640. 620 is an area where you can get lofts, like these kind of open little business areas. I think you can actually live in some of them also. But it's not even next door to the Cecil Hotel. There's actually a building in between them that used to It looks like it might have been an old pawn shop at some point. It has this big neon sign that says loans on it, but now it's an art installation. It has a bunch of windows that are facing the street that just have these art exhibits kind of set up behind them. And that's when I started noticing that there is kind of a hipster community that's starting to pop in there. If you look at the front of the Cecil, I explained this, the Stay on Main entrance. Right next to that is what is called the Main Street Cafe, I think, which was closed, and this is noon on a Friday. And it appears that that might be like a breakfast spot for people that are staying at the Cecil. Perhaps they serve their breakfast out of that area. Then you have the main lobby for the Cecil. Next to that is what looks like another storefront for a bar, which appears to be the bar for the hotel. You can actually access it from inside of the main lobby, but that was also closed. It wasn't staffed. And in an interesting twist, it had a couple of workout machines at the end of it. Like you could do the stair climber, and I think there was a treadmill in the bar, which I thought was kind of interesting. They were facing the window looking outward, so I guess they thought it might be good for guests if they wanted to exercise to do it down there where they can have a view of something. But then next to the bar was a new kind of health food, really small, not even a restaurant, but more of a window where you can order health food. So, like I said, a little bit of a hipster vibe between health food, art installation, and then down at the other end of the block was another kind of health food store and restaurant called the Artisan House, I believe. And I wound up having lunch there, and man, I wish it was in another part of town because it was a really good experience. I really enjoyed lunch. The market side was really cool. They had a bunch of great specialty beers that are from smaller micro brews out here in California, but it's just a horrible part of town. Basically, just from me walking from where the Cecil was down just one block down to where the Artisan House was for me to meet up with my co-investigator and have lunch, I was already approached by one guy that looked like he was literally just fried out of his brain, and he wanted to debate with me who would win in a fight, Spider-Man or Superman. Now this wasn't a physical threat of any kind, but you know, you're not really comfortable when you see obviously street people that are coming up to you trying to engage you, you know, close to close in conversation like that. He didn't wind up asking for money. Really, it was not necessarily a bad experience, but I did notice a trend of if you were standing out on the street for 20, 30 minutes, you were definitely going to get approached by someone, and that experience ranged from the kind of decent experience I'm telling you about at the start of it to much more severe experiences of people yelling at other people yelling at you about their court case, people asking for money. It was definitely all out there. And something that I noticed throughout my whole little adventure down there was I did not see police on that particular block at all. I saw no cop cars, I saw no foot patrol. However, if you just went a block up to Spring Street, which is a little more populated, definitely more businesses going on, that's where you'd find the local Starbucks. That's where the last bookstore is, which is one of the places that Elisa went on in the last day on January 31st, where we know that she went and tried to buy some gifts for her family. There was police all over, like literally cop cars coming by regularly and foot patrol, literally police that were just walking around patrolling the area. And it just hit me kind of weird that I didn't see any of that down on the other block where the Cecil is located. So I met up with my co-investigator, had a great lunch. We kind of brought each other up to speed on what we knew about the case. He has experience in investigating mostly forensic accounting investigations, but he actually has experience in other types of investigations, which I don't want to go into in depth, but he investigates all kinds of stuff. Has a very sharp eye for details. And one of the things that he talked about very early on was the amount of cameras that were on the street. And if someone was going to try to put together, you know, what she was doing that final day, it should be relatively easy. So as we left the restaurant, we started looking around, and there are quite a bit of cameras. I'm actually going to bring up some pictures that he took while we were walking around. This is on the corner of the building, the actual Cecil Hotel building. You've got two cameras right next to each other. This is on the other corner of the hotel building. You can see it's got that new orange branding for the Stay on Main. Here's another camera. And this is at the main entrance. So the first Stay on Main entrance that I was talking about, where Elisa might have been confused, I believe she went into this door down here and checked in. But this is the entrance for what is truly the main lobby. And this older lobby, which was actually the newer refurbished lobby, appears to not be in use anymore, or at least it wasn't staffed at the time that we were there at 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. It was completely dark, but if you look in there you can see the orange counter that is featured in a lot of the pictures of the new hip Stay on Main lobby. But if you look at this awning here, we've got a camera there, a camera there, a camera there, and finally, we just skipped past it, but there is another camera here. So there was a total of 1, 2, 3, at least 4 cameras just on the awning. So for us to answer the question, was she being potentially followed by someone that night? Was she coming in alone? It would be very easy for there to be pretty hard evidence, as long as people had access to these cameras, where they could verify, yes, she walked in alone, we know that she came in at 10 o'clock at night, or whatever. And that's not really the type of information that we're getting. The official information that we have is that hotel staff noticed her in the lobby alone. And that's a bit different from having, video proof, obviously. But literally all up and down this street there was cameras everywhere. Inside the actual Cecil Hotel lobby there was a lot of piping. It looked like the fire containment system might have been added after the building was built. There was really just a ton of pipes if you looked up at the ceiling. But once again, within the Cecil Hotel, this was a newer type of camera, and we noticed a few of these in the lobby area. These also appeared to have some type of infrared lights on them, and I can see that they were actually fired up. But back here, we've got the older dome type of camera, and this is a doorway that's looking into the main, what is called the Main Street Cafe, which was closed at that point, and I assume is the breakfast area. Being in the actual lobby was kind of interesting at first, because all those pictures that I've seen is kind of like this, these bright, airy pictures that make it seem like a pretty nice lobby. That is not what I saw at all. I don't think any of these overhead lights were on, which admittedly I was there in the middle of the day. However, skyscrapers in that part of downtown LA cast a huge shadow, and things get very dark naturally. So this was pretty much completely dark. It was kind of warm and a little muggy in there. I don't think they have any type of air conditioning system that runs in the I think I've heard on Yelp before that I'm not even sure if the rooms have air conditioning. But through all of the hallways, through the main lobby, it was basically maybe even a little warmer than it was outside, where at least you had kind of a breeze going on. So just kind of dark and muggy in there. This is a shot of one of the fire escapes, and I know that I've talked a lot in previous videos about the feasibility of her climbing up the fire escapes, and after seeing them for myself now, it definitely would have been a bit easier than I thought. And this is particularly true because we bumped into one fire escape. Here's a picture of it, where literally the window was already open. And I believe that the staff was doing this to let some air come in through the building. Also worth noting at this point, I've heard about security being on this site, and I can tell you I wasn't a registered guest. We literally walked into the lobby, walked around a little bit, went up a couple flights of stairs. We were actually on one of the guest floors at that point. Did a little testing of the elevator, which we'll get to in a little bit. And nobody really approached us. There was one point where a maintenance guy seemed to walk by us, but there was really no interaction. He didn't tell us, ask us where our room was or tell us to get out or anything like that. I was really surprised that overall we were allowed to pretty much go wherever we wanted to. Here is another close-up of that same window, and you can see the stairs outside of it. It's not, I was expecting more of kind of an old school traditional metal stair that was kind of affixed to the wall, and this is almost its own staircase. Very sturdy, and I don't think it would be as intimidating as I originally expected it to be for someone young to get out there and kind of climb up it. And as you can see, with the window already open, it's almost inviting. I mean, it's literally a small step. This window is very low. It was only, I think, maybe at the most 2 feet off the ground. So very easy to step up on there, and pretty soon you're out on the fire escape. This is a picture of the floor overview, and worth noting here, I had heard in previous reports that there was only one staircase in the building, and it's pretty clear here. We have stair number 1, which includes roof access here, and we have stair number 2 over here. There are actually 2 internal stairs. One of them does include roof access. We'll get to that a little bit more. There's one of the walls on one of the floors. Okay, so this is one of the elevator. There's only one set of elevators, so this is definitely the same system of, or bank of elevators that she used, but this is on a different floor. And for this floor, if you look right back up here, that's actually a camera. So one of the big things about her footage, of course, is we can't see if she's talking to anyone, and someone that might know how to avoid the cameras might be talking to her. This camera up here might give us a better perspective, and I'm just kind of wondering why we've never seen that footage. Now, what is interesting is on the 14th floor, I'm not positive if they have a camera in that same location. However, with how often I saw cameras all over this place, I'd be very surprised if there wasn't a camera somewhere in that elevator lobby getting a shot of it. But for this floor in particular, there's a camera right over. These are the community restrooms and shower area, which also started telling us a bit of a different story. Supposedly this is the elevator that Elisa was in. And if you imagine her poking her head out and looking down here, she really has, I mean, you can kind of see the hallway just a little bit, but she really has more of a view of the bathroom doors. It just really gave me a different perspective in terms of where her eye line is going, what she could be looking at. Is there potentially someone that's speaking to her from one of the bathrooms with the door open? I have no idea, but this is just a matter of, I don't know, maybe 8 feet at the most from the edge of this doorway out into the middle of this hallway, maybe 10 feet all the way to that next door. So kind of strange. Here's a close-up on the camera that is right above. And another question is, are these cameras all functional? Are these cameras all real? Are some of them put there as possibly deterrents to bad things happening? I don't know for certain. Someone does, and I'd be very curious if the LAPD didn't try to find out the where that information is going and review it for themselves, but we don't know for sure. In the stairwell, also, there are cameras. And at this point, I should mention, I did a radio interview on Dark Matter Radio Digital, and with Solaris Blue Raven, who I've also talked about in a previous BrainScratch. I'm going to have a link in the description box below so you can check out that interview. It's a full 2 hours, and I talk about my experience there last week. After reconnecting with my co-investigator and talking to him at length today, I have a couple of things to fix about that conversation. I wasn't sure that there was cameras in the stairwell. He tells me there is cameras basically at every level of the stairwell. He, at one point, took a run up the stairs. He wanted to get all the way to that top door and really see what the story is up there. And essentially what he found is there is a bar that says that the alarm will go off, but he did push this bar and was able to open the door, and there was no alarm that we heard of. If it was a silent alarm to the staff or to the desk, I would highly suspect that they would have found us and kicked us out of the building or something, and none of that seemed to happen. So I am really uncertain if that alarm system at the top door is working. But it was very easy for him to get up the stairs very quickly. Obviously, he was able to open that door, poke his head out, and he was looking at the rooftop. So throws another strange wrinkle into the mix for the wrongful death suit, because if that alarm system isn't working properly, that would really raise some questions. There was kind of weird areas. This is kind of a weird narrow door. It does have a key card system on it. However, for at least the few floors that I was able to see that looked like they were regular rooms, I did not notice these key cards on all of the guest rooms. So I don't know if they have a key card system only for certain floors, maybe only for the rooms that are rentable for the Stay on Main business, as opposed to the rooms that are there for long-term residential use. I don't know, but most of the locks looked pretty old and traditional to me. There was a lot of things that looked kind of old to me in this building. And this is a shot of, they had this kind of weird little area off of the main lobby where you could play ping pong. I guess I guess certain guests like to play ping pong there. And right behind the ping pong table they had this staircase, and you can see there, it's definitely ornate. There is some good style in there. I could see why Elisa suggested that, you know, maybe some scenes from the Great Gatsby could be filmed there. However, with how dark and muggy the rest of the lobby was, I don't know, maybe she saw it at night when all those lights were on and it looked a bit more like this picture back here. But I can tell you it definitely didn't look like that when I was there. And the clientele, I noticed some tourists. I didn't see many young women. I definitely don't recall seeing many young women on their own, at least around the Cecil. However, when we got up to Spring Street and we were checking in at the last bookstore, there I saw what was clearly a lot more tourist and foot traffic and women on their own walking around, some of them walking dogs. And the walk there was pretty interesting. It's really, I think you could almost make a map of the streets that you should avoid. And it's strange because if you go down one block, you might bump into a street that is literally littered with homeless people, people that are likely on some type of drugs. I mean, their eyes are really blown out, they're screaming things at the air, at each other, at you. And if you go a block away from that, all of a sudden you find an area that looks like it's somewhat revitalized. There's restaurants there, it seems like business people are eating lunch. It's a really strange thing to see this area of downtown that really feels beat down and stuck in this like time warp almost. And then all of a sudden you go a block away from that and everything seems back to normal for downtown LA, which admittedly might not be as normal as Main Street in the town that you live in. But it was really, it was palpable. There was definitely a noticeable change when you would go from Spring Street to Main Street. And on Main Street, I gotta say, it didn't feel like there was as much of a police presence, not even close. So that was my trip down there. Ultimately, will I go back? Will we do some further investigations? Possibly. You know, I think if we do anything like that, we're actually going to check into the hotel and be official guests, so we're not worried about getting thrown out or anything silly like that. Oh, I forgot to discuss the elevator. Here we go. So we did call for the elevator, and I want to give a shout out here to another YouTuber named Leprechaumunist1. And I believe I've talked to him a little bit before in comment threads, but I've watched a video of his, and he was talking about a button at the bottom of that center row that Elisa pressed on, but this button is called Door Hold. So that arm look familiar to you? The Door Hold button, if you press it, will keep those doors open for a extremely long period of time. We actually set a timer on it and set the timer off and hit the door hold button. We got to a full minute, and at that point I was just like, well, let's start to recreate a bit of what she did. She hit other floors and then she hit the door hold. So I hit a floor button and then hit door hold again, and we let the timer run. It went for another full 2 minutes. So my assumption is, as long as you hit door hold last, it will stay open for a full 2 minutes, and we know that the elevator footage is, especially the part that has her in it, is about 2 minutes long, especially when it's played back at its proper speed instead of it being slowed down 33%. So the mystery of the elevator not working properly, for me, especially after being there, experiencing it for myself, there is absolutely no mystery. If she hit that button that says door hold, that thing was going to stay there for at least 2 minutes before the doors would close and continue on to the floors. I believe that's a feature that was built in because I didn't see a freight elevator here, so it could be if people are moving in or moving out, especially long-term residents, that might have been a feature that they needed, would be for the elevator to wait a couple minutes while they loaded things into it and then close. So that mystery, at least for me, is solved. However, a new mystery kind of pops up, particularly in this photograph. If you look at the video footage of Elisa, bring up one real quick. You can see this kind of gold outline that lines the floor there. And if you look at the picture that I took, there was no gold border on the floor there anymore. Also, the wall here looks like it's corrugated metal here right above this brass footer. And if we look at this one, I'm not sure that that's the same type of material. So I don't know if the elevators potentially went through some type of cosmetic change. I did notice when the elevators first opened that the ceiling was painted like the sky, and it was light blue and like clouds all over it. It was kind of definitely along the lines of being gaudy, like Elisa suggested. But this gold footing thing kind of throws me off. It almost feels like I have to kind of wonder if I was even in the right elevator. I mean, there's only 2 elevators in there. There is a map that was done by the Chinese investigators. It's pretty clear that it is the elevator on the right side. I can verify that with the pictures we have, where you can see these 2 columns that kind of ride up on the right here. Right next to these columns is a big mirror on every floor. So I can definitely, from Elisa's video, we see the 2 columns here, and we see the big section that starts here, and the mirror is right about there. So I should have been in the right elevator, but the thing about the floor really has me thrown, because I don't think flooring, that flooring doesn't look new to me. And I don't know if maybe the border that was on there was temporary for some reason or changed for some reason. I really have no idea. But it is just a little bit of a wrinkle in terms of me kind of matching this up to the elevator footage, and kind of a strange wrinkle, especially with the wall here. But I guess it's possible that there was some type of construction done and that they maybe refurbished the elevators. Maybe that's when they repainted the ceiling. But if they refurbished the elevators, I'm pretty curious why they didn't do anything about these button panels that are severely wore out. And I was kind of hoping that I could compare these. I mean, you can see the 10, the 11, 5. These ones are almost completely wore away in terms of their paint. But when we get to the footage, it's really just too grainy to see it. And that's another thing that I'm going to kind of leave you guys with just as an ending note to this. This camera footage is really, really bad. I mean, when you compare this picture where you can actually make out some details about what's going on here, and this picture is tiny, this is like a 150 kilobyte picture, and you compare it to this camera is literally a muddled mess. I did see the corner with the camera up there, so I know the placement of it, and obviously my picture The picture taken by my co-investigator is a bit closer here. But just details like this. There's a call box over here on the right, or what maybe used to be a call box. It looks like it might be screwed shut, but you can't even see it. There's room for it to be here, but you can't make out the outline, you can't make out the logo. Just in terms of it being an investigative tool, this camera is quite frankly crap. It is really a horrible image, and it's very hard to see what's going on here. I did go to the LAPD website. They have an official page about when they thought Elisa was missing, and they had included video footage there. However, if you try to watch the video, it's no longer available. I was hoping that it might be better quality or a bit different, but that footage for some reason has been pulled by the LAPD from there. So after my big visit there, does it spin up any new theories? Well, my co-investigator has done a bit of thinking on that, and we actually have a new theory that we've been bouncing off each other. I have to do a little more research on it before I present it to you guys, but it's definitely feasible. It definitely touches on a lot of points that other people have made about what could have happened, about possibly the Invisible Light Agency being involved. But there is a twist in it that I haven't heard before, so I'm going to do, like I said, got to do a little more footwork on that, but I'll be presenting that to all of you very, very soon. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this edition of BrainScratch. I hope that I've answered a few questions for you. I know I've started a few other ones, particularly about that strange border, but I don't think it's too pertinent to the case. And I'm looking forward to reading all of your information and comments in the comment box below. Hope you have a great weekend, and I will catch you next week on Geek and Dorks, a YouTube channel.